संसार दावानल निरलोका तराय कारुण घनाघनत्यम् प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणान्नवशा.
5-in-1 Absolute Truth. Next day, one of the devotees said that Prabhupada wanted to see me in his quarters, but when I arrived, he wasn't there. Alone in his greeting room, for the first time, I began to look around. The second-hand thick Indian rug I had donated to him a month earlier now covered his sitting cushion, and the small metal trunk he had brought from India, now covered by a dark gray-brown blanket, served as his desk. A manual typewriter, papers, and books sat in the middle of his desk, and a saffron cloth-covered bundle of what appeared to be manuscripts lay in a corner. A tall metal closet opposite his desk held his stock of Srimad Bhagavatam first canto volumes and his few pieces of clothing. To the left of the closet, the morning sunlight streamed in through 2 windows, illuminating the poster print of Krishna on the wall. Soon, he walked in. I offered my obeisances, thrilled to see him. He greeted me with a nod and a smile, and then carefully lifted an 8x10 Indian print from the pile of papers on his desk. It was another picture of Lord Chaitanya and his 4 principal associates. This one, more formal and stylized than the first, looked like a portrait of worship. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood in the center with 2 associates standing on either side, a little lower and 2 more below them. I thought it mystical that just above the Lord's head was a small portrait of Radha and Krishna appearing within an Om sign. "This is Panchatattva," he said, as he took his seat on the layers of thin mats behind his trunk desk. The 5-in-1 Absolute Truth. It looked sublime, beyond the world. I shivered internally. I tried hard to follow as he elaborated. The first 2, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya, are in the category of Lord Chaitanya himself. They are Vishnu Tattva. I mean to say, they are God. They are the energetic absolute truth. The others, Sri Gadadhar Pandit and Srivas Thakur, are his devotees, his eternal associates. They are his energies. The energy and energetic are fundamentally one, but because their functions are exhibited differently, they are different also. In this way, the absolute truth is manifested in oneness and diversity. This is called Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, or the conception of inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and difference. I was lost, but still excited to hear more. If we follow the principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he continued, especially by associating with his devotees, our desire for material enjoyment, like lust and greed, will disappear from our heart. Then we will be able to understand the deep meaning of all Vedic scriptures, the Lord himself, his incarnation, expansion, energy, and manifestation as a devotee. Lord Chaitanya is the form of God as a devotee. Lord Nityananda is his expansion in the form of a devotee. Advaita is his incarnation as a devotee. Gadadhar is his energy as a pure devotee too. And Srivas Thakur is the devotee servant of Krishna. That's all. I knew I'd eventually get it. The Panchatattva have their own Mahamantra. He added, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. This mantra has a special significance. They are the most merciful. They do not see offenses. By first chanting their mantra, they purify us. They make us qualified to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Oh yeah, this is the same mantra we sing every morning and evening before chanting Hare Krishna, I pondered. It's the same mantra we utter before chanting on our beads. I was grateful for this further clarity and I wanted to hear more, but I was unable to formulate a question, so I sat there silently staring at the picture. I usually wore a pair of old dungarees, which, while I painted, doubled up as the paint rag I would frequently misplace. In time, my dungarees came to resemble the paint rag. While working with the original Panchatattva print, I would occasionally smudge parts of its frame or glass covering, and towards the end of the first week, Prabhupada mentioned the smudges. This picture is non-different from Lord Chaitanya and his associates, he said. So keep it as clean as possible. I immediately cleaned it and promised myself I would be more careful in the future. By the day's close, I decided not to leave the painting standing on top of newspapers on the floor as I had been doing. Instead, I hung it on the wall by the inner window. One late afternoon, just before I left to return to the Bronx, Prabhupada came in and walked over to the painting. He studied it for a moment, and with this outstretched palm pointing to Lord Chaitanya's raised arm, he said, "You can paint an amulet here." His mother gave it to him on his birthday to ward off all bad luck. The following day, when I informed him that the painting was complete, he asked me to paint the names of the Panchatattva under their lotus feet. Lotus what? I asked. Feet. Lotus feet. The Lord's feet are as beautiful as fully bloomed lotus flowers. It also means that he and his devotees dance eternally in the innermost section of Krishna's planet, which is shaped like a lotus flower. He personally wrote down the names on a small piece of paper so that I would know how to spell them. Instead of writing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wrote Gauranga and told me that it means golden-limbed one. Using my oil paints, I printed the names on the painting and then set off for the hardware store on the 3rd Avenue to buy some 1-inch plywood strips for the frame. En route to the hardware store, I passed by one of the thousands of New York's Lower East Side Bowery homeless folks. Beaten down by life, he pushed a wooden cart piled high with bundles of junk. It was the beginning of November. Snow and slush covered the streets. This unfortunate fellow wore only a few highly torn sweaters, and his feet were wrapped in newspaper and plastic bags. I felt utterly sorry for him. Back at Srila Prabhupada's apartment, I was in the middle of nailing the strips of wood onto the sides of the painting when Gargamuni entered the room. I mentioned the bedraggled bum. Was he carrying a heavy load? Gargamuni asked. I nodded as I began to apply bright blue paint over the ply frame and then told of the junk piled on his cart. Gargamuni paced across the floor and said, You know, Swamiji once told us about the donkey who foolishly carries a heavy load, slaving hard and thinking that at his next step, he will catch the dangling carrot that the owner had tied 2 inches in front of his nose. Of course, he'll never get it. All he gets for payment is a few bites of grass at the end of the walk. He doesn't realize that there's already so much grass for free on the sides of the road. I know what you mean, I said, but I felt sorry for him. He was so poor. I think you have missed the Swami's point, Gargamuni interrupted. Every person is poor, even the millionaire. Every person is working hard for material masters, hoping to get happiness that never comes. His words were sobering. Be compassionate, but also see that we are all homeless in this material world. Our real home is with Krishna. Be compassionate to everyone. Prabhupada requested Gargamuni to hang the painting on the wall above the side altar. And in his Srimad Bhagavatam class, the following morning, he spoke as if making an announcement. Now, Lord Chaitanya is here. There should be no more nonsense in the temple. God is here, as well as his expansion, his incarnation, his spiritual energy, and his pure devotee. Everything is here except his material energy. There is nothing material about this painting. Even if you think it is only color, color is another of God's energies and is therefore also spiritual. If anyone simply chants Hare Krishna and dances in front of this image of Panchatattva in any part of the world, he can become fully Krishna conscious. The other devotees looked as happy as I felt. Srila Prabhupada explained that Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement when he was just a youth. From that moment, he was always surrounded by this Hare Krishna party. He is the Yuga avatar, the incarnation of this age, and he is worshipped, especially by chanting. Our Holy Master encouraged us to preach the glories of the Maha Mantra, sound vibration, as well as to explain the glories of these 5 personalities all over the world. He said that it would bring peace and prosperity without a doubt. What a blessing! How incredibly fortunate I am to have joined this most important and revolutionary mission, I deliberated. I recall the sign on the bathroom door, always chant and sing the Lord's holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.